Good morning and welcome to my garage. Now I know you can't see my face, it's just not possible for me to frame everything up in this shot, but I just wanted to show and decide how I'm going to do a video showing this latest Facebook Marketplace purchase. And as you can see, it is a fully assembled airplane. Not only is it a fully assembled airplane, it's like 99% ready to fly. Now does this mean that I'm taking one step closer to actually flying? Perhaps so, because it certainly eliminates the need for me to build an airplane. Now this one is very complete. I just picked this up for a very reasonable price. It has an OS 46 AX version 1 engine installed, and for those of you that haven't figured it out yet, this is a Hangar 9 T34 Mentor. This is an airplane, an ARF, that came out in 2004, I believe, about the same year as this engine came out. Now I just happened to see this on Facebook for a shockingly attractive price for this whole package, and I was like, holy crap, how can I possibly turn this thing down? I'm just going to sit here while I'm talking and just show it to you. It's capable of having retracts. And it actually came with a set of mechanical retracts. I probably would not be installing those, but it's got the engine installed. Everything is ready to go. There's radio equipment installed, and the interesting thing about the radio equipment that's installed in here is it's actually JR 72 megahertz. So all I would really need to do is put my own receiver in there, because I've got two JR systems right now that I could utilize for this airplane. So what I think I'm going to do, as you can see here in the background, I got this flight box that I got from another earlier Facebook Marketplace deal. And what I think I really want to do here is take the cowling off and look at the engine, and possibly go ahead and just pull the engine on it and see what kind of access I've got to the fuel tank. And the only reason I'd be pulling the engine is potentially because I've got a 40FX. Those of you that follow my channel, I've got a 40FX that would probably bolt directly into this thing and replacing this. And it just so happens to have a rear remote needle valve also, so I wouldn't have to do any kind of modifications to that. It should just be a direct drop-in replacement. It looks like there's a hole here in the cowling. It looks like initially maybe this person that built this was going to put an engine with a carb up front, or with the needle valve up front, but then they decided to go this route. So like I said, the only reason I might take this apart or take this engine off is assess the condition of the engine. I don't know for sure if the engine has ever been run. It could be a very new engine. I mean, it could be a brand new engine for all I know. This has never been flown, from what the fellow that I bought it from told me from the guy he got it from. So it's never been flown. So it would need to have the CG checked. I need to have the engine checked out, and I'd like to be able to inspect the fuel tank if possible. Although this is such an older ARF that they didn't have any kind of provisions for removable hatches to check the fuel tank. And when I looked inside with the wing off, it looks pretty tight in there. So what I think I'm going to do is turn the camera off, change my camera angle, take the wing off, and I'll put it on the flight box here, and I can show you what the inside looks like. It looks very clean, looks new, but the receiver is just velcroed to wood. It's not padded. It's not wrapped in foam padding like it should be or anything like that. So there are some minor things that need to be done, and if I choose to use that receiver that's in there, I'd have to pull the crystal out and put a matching crystal for my transmitter in there. Otherwise, I just yank that whole receiver out and fish the antenna out. Because right now, the beautiful thing about this is, 72 megahertz receivers have probably, I don't know how long the antenna is, 36 inches long. It depends on the frequency. But right now, this is a little bit of a sprig hanging out back here. But it's beautiful because the nose or the tail cone isn't in place yet. So I could just wrap the rest of the inch or two of receiver antenna in that cone, and you never even see that hanging out like you used to on most other airplanes. So if I can get this to a point where I can actually take it out to my partner's place and do a test run of the engine on the, I can do a video with the test running the engine on the airplane, that would give me a lot more confidence in actually taking this thing up. So the last part of the equation would be, where do I take it up at? There's not really a good runway at her place yet, but it's one step closer. So that's where I'm going to go with this. I may just end this video here and make another one of me showing the inside of this and checking out the engine. Okay, so I don't really know how interesting this is going to be to watch, but I do have the spinner cone off the front of this thing, and we're just going to pop this prop and spinner back plate off here, and then I'll take these cowl screws out. It's got a remote looking filler valve here, which is really kind of cool. I'm really curious to see the way that engine's flopping around on there. It doesn't really feel like it's screwed too firmly in place. So this is why you buy something like this, you really need to check it out very thoroughly before you go putting it in the air and trusting it. I've got one little bin over here, one drawer on this thing where I'm putting all the things. Did you even see that? Can you see that? In the one of these drawers of this flight box where I'm putting all of the items that I'm removing so that they're in one spot here. And I've got my drill driver here to take these cowl screws out because it's faster. And where did that washer go? There it is. Now you may say, David, if you're thinking about flying, why in the heck would you want to fly something like this right out of the chute? And I would say, because I feel confident that I could fly this thing without any issues whatsoever right now. I have had several layoffs in my flying, and I've always been able to just fly right away. So I say, why not? Alright, there we go. Cowl is removed. This engine is looking like it's brand new. Feels really dry. It turns freely, but it just feels dry. And I'm seeing things here that probably going to make it such that, I like how he's color coded these fuel lines, make it such that I'm going to have to get some other tools. Okay, so I was taking the engine mount screws out, and I don't know what I thought I saw moving, but this is very well mounted. I've got these two top screws, the nuts off of them, and I'm sitting here thinking, do I really want to take this engine off? I mean, I'd really like to take this engine off and maybe just replace it with a 40FX that I've got, that I've already run and I know is set up and good to go. And this to me looks kind of like and feels like a new engine, but I disconnected. I took the exhaust off and I disconnected. This was a fuel line. This is the line to the tank vent, and this is a fill line. And if I blow through this fill line and hold the pressure line from the exhaust, I see oil coming out of this fuel tank, like there has been something in the tank before, as if it has had something in it, which is a little bit of a concern, because now I got to try and really think about seeing if I can get this tank out and inspect it. I mean, it could be fine, Maybe all I really need to do is put some alcohol in there, put a little bit of alcohol in there, swish it around and blow it out just like I'm doing here. Because it feels like I get a good pressure check on it. It's just there's crud in that tank now. It appears that there's crud in there, and that would imply that this engine was run. And if I pull this front drive hub off, that front bearing looks perfect. I mean, it looks, there's no oil residue or anything there that I can see. It looks brand new. So maybe this thing was just fired up. The other thing is that I just noticed, which I thought was maybe a little odd, was that the control arm wasn't actually connected to the throttle. So, I mean, that could have just popped off or something, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe this has been run. I think the engine is fine. I mean, it could be run just as it is. It was just a matter of me taking the engine off and having a 46. Let's see, what is this engine? Is it really a 46? Where's a 40AX? I don't know if they made a 40AX. Trying to get my cell phone to focus on it, and I can't really see what it is. I can't tell. I don't know that they actually made a 40AX. It may just be a 46, no matter what. So the question is, would I go ahead and take it off and just play with it, or just leave it on this plane and maybe just hang the plane from my ceiling until such a time that I'm ready to go? But I really would like to, at least at minimum, get a receiver going in this thing and take this out and do some engine testing with the fuel tank on it. I mean, there's no harm in doing that. I could stake it to the ground, take it out to my partner's place, run it up on the ground. That would be a cool thing to do, and then I could sit there and, you know, test the engine out. The exhaust did not show any signs. Forgetting here. The exhaust did not show any signs of any residue in there at all. So that's the other thing that was curious, is that the exhaust, when I took it off, looked brand spanking new and doesn't smell like there's any oil in there. So I don't understand the status of the fuel tank. What I think I may do is just get a syringe and throw some isopropyl alcohol in here and swish it around, reconnect everything. I'll just put these screws back in this engine mount and work on getting the receiver going, and I think the next steps will probably just be fueling this thing up and doing some test runs of the engine on the airplane, just for the hell of it. And of course, you know what happens when you start test running an engine on an airplane. Then you start doing a taxi test, and then the next thing you know, you're in the air. I've had that happen several times before. I'm just going to go out there and I'm just going to test the engine. I'm just going to taxi. And then the next thing you know, you're flying. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so here I am back in my garage again. I've just spent the last few hours doing stuff that I haven't done in several years, and one of which was learning how to program this JRXP8103 transmitter, because that's the I left the R700 receiver that was in there, and I just took the crystal from the receiver I had for this transmitter and threw it in there. So I've been learning how to program. I got dual rates on my elevator, dual rates on my ailerons, got my rudder is turning the right direction, so all of that good stuff is working. My throttle, it took a while to figure out. I had to set, there was just so much default throw in the JR servo for the throttle. I had to cut it back so far using a travel adjustment and sub trims just to get that thing to quit popping the servo arm linkage. But this thing is about as ready as it can be for engine testing. I chose to keep the 40 6AX on there, and I did not take it off. I just said the heck with it, I'm just going to leave it on there. I'll do some engine run-ups and fuel. I tested the fuel tank, and you saw that. And what I did with that was, let me turn this off real quick. What I did with that was, as you saw in the last little segment, I was blowing through there, and I said I was going to put maybe some isopropyl alcohol through that tank, and that's not what I did. What I did was I had a little bit of a gallon, or not a gallon, a little bit of a fuel tank of some FAI fuel that I just loaded into that tank, and then I just blew it out. So this is what came out of it. This is FAI fuel and whatever residual stuff was in there. I think it's pretty much good to go. I put it in there and I shook the fuselage around and sloshed that out. I could probably do that some more, but this just so happened to be some fuel that was in the fuel tank, and it wasn't a fresh batch, so I figured it'd be good for just cleaning that out. So really all I need to do now is, fuel this thing up and fire it up. Obviously it's a rainy day today, so I can't do that here, plus the fact that I need to be able to secure the tail into the ground someplace, so it's not something I can do here today, unfortunately, which is unfortunate because I'd like to do it. And earlier when I said there was another hole here in the front of the cowling that I thought maybe the person was using a different engine on, that's not the case. That's the hole to access the low-speed needle on this engine. I haven't actually tried putting a screwdriver in there and seeing how well it lines up. The only thing that is a little bit of a concern to me is the cowl design on this is such that it looks like it's kind of impinging on some of the air intake coming from going into the carb. But the high-speed needle, I can put a little short stub on there and get that so it's more easily tunable. But right now I'm going to just plug it all in and let this thing sit and charge overnight and hope for maybe a day, maybe tomorrow, when I can actually go out and do a little bit of a test run with this engine, start getting the engine running and broken in and see how it's going to run. And I left the same, the prop that came on this, I thought it was curious. It was an 11.6. Ordinarily I would put a 10.6 on a 46 size plane, but for the heck of it, we'll just leave that on there and see. I also found my digital scale, the scale that I used to use for static thrust measurements, and I weighed this thing, and it weighs 6.39 pounds. So that's pretty lightweight. Now there are a few other things that really need to be done if this thing were to ever take flight, which would be go around and seal a lot of these edges, because some of these edges are where the covering is coming up. And also, either, since I wouldn't be installing the retracts, let's see if I've got any kind of yellow covering that's about the same color and just cover these wheel wells, because they haven't been fuel proofed inside there at all. So I figure if I'm not going to put retracts on there, the best thing to do is just try to find either clear tape, which would not be as good. I'll see if I've got any yellow that's close to the same color. This is Ultra Coat, I think. And just put some covering over this, and to keep any fuel out, because the exhaust is right here, so the exhaust is going to go right down the back of the wing, and it will get in here for sure. So there's little things like that that need to be done. I need to make a little notch in the tail cone so it'll clear the elevator joiner, so it'll fit flush in there, so I can screw that in place. And what I think I'll do is I'll just put a little notch in the bottom of it here, so that this receiver antenna just kind of hangs out in the back of it like that. Other things that need to be done if it were to fly would be to foam pad or do something a little bit different with the receiver to protect it, because it's just velcroed, a piece of velcro on the back of the receiver onto wood. It really needs to have a little bit of foam padding around it, rubber banded, bubble wrap or something like that, and then secured better. But other than that, I took the black spinner off for now because I don't care for it. I left the back plate of the spinner on, and I just have a spinner nut on here. I don't really care for that black spinner. It's got really strange little cross point screws that I can't seem to find a screwdriver yet that is narrow enough to fit in there, yet big enough to hit those cross point heads good. So I just took it off. I think it looks just as good with just a spinner nut on there anyway. So that is the T34 Mentor experiment that I've gotten. If I can't find a way to get this running and or find a place to fly it, I will just hang it from my ceiling.